go to Kyiv because one of the key geopolitical issues ever present, particularly if Trump is in office, is what happens next. We've heard recently in this Joe Rogan interview where Donald Trump said he'd speak to Vladimir Putin, he'd speak to speak to Volodymyr Zelenskiy. He won't say, he told Joe Rogan what he's going to say, but he would end the war. Gulliver, bring us up to date with the responses there in Kyiv.
A lot of Ukrainians have been joking about that 24-hour plan to end the war. It seems to be, dark humour is carrying people through this very difficult day, because I think the majority of Ukrainians realise that this is not the best result for Ukraine. Though in the run-up to this election, I've had the sense that the feeling that a Trump victory would be disastrous for Ukraine kind of subsided, because Ukrainians were beginning to feel that the situation was pretty disastrous anyway, and that if Kamala Harris had been elected and continued the policies of Joe Biden, that wouldn't be enough. And so you've got more and more people in Ukraine who are sort of wanting to see Trump as a potential wild card who might do something unexpected, who might actually increase support for Ukraine. But you've got other people, especially experts, editorialists, and so on, trying to rein those things in and saying that's absolutely a fantasy. But I get the impression that the public mentality is kind of following in the heels of the government's mentality and attitude. We saw how Volodymyr Zelenskiy, in the run-up to this election, when it began to look more and more likely that Trump might return to the White House, started courting Trump, started talking more and more about how Ukraine could work with his administration, and hoped that Trump could help Ukraine achieve victory. And I've had lots and lots of people just here in the center of Kyiv echoing similar words, actually, saying, well, we hope that the USA will continue to help us. What can they do, really, apart from hope? Other people, though, are saying, we're failing and it's the fault of the West, but it's the fault of the West some time ago, in 2023, when they didn't give enough weapons. And what's happened since then is more the failure of the Ukrainian military to recruit enough people that has led them to be in such dire straits right now on the front lines in the east and south.
I mean, it's probably not surprising to think that through the night, if not Volodymyr Zelensky, some of his team would have been keeping across developments in Washington, across the US. When you're speaking to soldiers on the front line, Gulliver, when you're talking to troops, just how often does that come up? Who is going to be the next, quote, leader of the free world, and the possibility of a Donald Trump presidency?
I feel like earlier this year, when the Republicans, particularly those close to Trump, were holding up American aid for Ukraine, there, soldiers were saying Trump's clearly the enemy of Ukraine, and this is a very, very bad situation. But since then, I think, Trump hasn't gone any further in terms of saying that the United States would cut aid to Ukraine. We don't actually know what his policy is going to be. We don't actually know what is meant by this ending the war in 24 hours. And so you've got quite a lot of different opinions, including among soldiers. One that I spoke to just now today, though, I asked him, so what do you think of this victory of Donald Trump in the US election? And he just answered with one word: catastrophe.
Well, Gulliver, thank you. Gulliver Cragg, our correspondent in Kyiv. Now,